lesson we're going to tackle another major level of the guitar music theory pyramid, the subject of key signatures. Now the outcome of studying this lesson should be an ability to tell what key a piece of music is in just by glancing at it. Also developing a greater understanding of how different keys relate to one another and how to work out how many sharps there are in a particular key signature. Now, in music theory exercises, we often start with the key of C major. I'm sure you'll soon see why. Here you can see the letters of the musical alphabet from C to C, and above each letter the corresponding note in its correct place on the stave. Now if you think back to the lesson that we did on tones, semitones and the major scale formula, you'll remember that in order to get the notes for a major scale, we have to space them tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Like this, starting on C, up a tone, up another tone, up a semitone, up a tone, up a tone, up a tone, up a semitone. So this is going to become crucial to understanding this lesson, so make sure you have a good grasp of that major scale formula. So if we check the arrangement of notes in our C scale, we can work out that there is a tone between C and D, a tone between D and E, but only a semitone between E and F. Remember, these are two notes on the keyboard that don't have a black note separating them. Then we've got a tone between F and G, a tone between G and A tone between A and B, and a semitone between B and C. Again, because those are the notes that don't have a black note between them on the piano. So without any alteration at all, the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C already conform to the major scale formula. There's therefore no need to add any sharps or flats to the key signature in this key. So we say the key of C major has no sharps and no flats. And when you see a piece of written music in C, there's simply a blank after the treble clef, no sign of anything. And that's the key signature of C major. Next we count up the scale of C major to step 5. We do this because this lesson is called the circle of fifths. This gives us the note G. So the G scale is the next one we're going to look at. Again, we start by laying out the letters from G to G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Next, we analyse the gaps between the notes. But this time, you'll notice that in order to make the scale fit the formula, the tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone formula, we have to sharpen the 7th note from F natural to F sharp. The note F sharp is a tone above E and a semitone below G, so this keeps our formula straight. The way this is expressed in standard notation is to place one sharp sign at the start of the music, just after the clef, on the top line of the stave. It is placed on this line because this is the line where the note F is normally positioned. This instruction tells you to play every F note you encounter as an F sharp. So here right away is the essence of what this lesson is all about. That the purpose of key signatures is simply to keep the notes of any given key or scale the correct distance apart from each other. And in the case of major scales or major keys, the correct distance is determined by that formula tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Okay, let's continue on round the circle of fifths. To get to our next key in the circle, we once again move 5 steps up in the current key of G major. As you can see, this takes us to D. Before we move on though, we're going to remember the sharp from the current key by using the word father, as in F for father. Don't worry about this for now, this will make more sense as we progress. So on to the key of D major. Again, we start with the letters D to D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And place the notes to go with those letter names on the stave. When we analyse the intervals in the scale and compare them to the major scale formula, we realise that we need to retain the sharp F for father to keep the tone gap between the second and third notes and the semitone gap between the third and fourth. We also need to sharpen the seventh note C to keep the formula right at the end of the scale. So the key of D major has 2 sharps, F for father and C for Charles. Having effectively retained the F sharp from the previous key in the circle, we refer to the C sharp as the new sharp in the key. Note that it is always the new sharp that we give a special name to. In this case, it's christened Charles. Notice too the position of the sharp symbols at the start of the music. The F sharp on the top line, where the note F is usually found, and the C sharp on the second space down, where the C note is usually found. And now you can see that our next key in the circle of fifths is A major, being the 5th note in the key of D. When we analyse the intervals between the letter names in this key, we find we need 3 sharps. 2 of these are F for father and C for Charles, which we carried forward from the previous key in the circle. The new sharp is again note 7, in this case G sharp. We use the word goes to remember this one. So far we have Father Charles goes. I wonder where he goes. Let's have a look at what we've covered so far. See if we can begin to spot the underlying rules and patterns at work here. If we can, we should be able to make some predictions about the next step in the circle of fifths. For example, we can see that we are accumulating sharps one at a time every time we take the key up a fifth. So we know that the next key will be E, E major, 5 steps up in the key of A, and that this key will have 4 sharps, F for father, C for Charles, G for goes, and 1 new sharp. Looking back over what we've worked out so far, we can spot that the new sharp each time that's added to the key signature is always note 7. So in the key of E, that will have to be D sharp. So that would seem a logical way of working out the key of E, but let's just double check to see if we've got our rules straight by checking that what we've worked out conforms to the major scale formula. So let's have a look. E to F sharp, that's a tone. F sharp to G sharp, that's a tone. G sharp to A, that's a semitone. A to B, that's a tone. B to C sharp, that's a tone. C sharp to D sharp, that's a tone. And D sharp to E, a semitone. So that checks out okay. So I think we can be confident that we've cracked the code. So D stands for the word down, by the way. Father Charles goes down. Now, from the key of E, we again go up 5, so we come to B. So our next key in the circle is going to be B major. That'll keep the same 4 sharps. Father Charles goes down. and we'll have the new sharp as note 7 in the key of B, so that'll be A sharp. A in this case stands for and, so that gives us Father Charles goes down and. Five steps up the B major scale takes us to F sharp. So our next key is F sharp major. This one has a bit of an oddity in it. Notice that once again we have to sharpen the 7th note, but the 7th note in the key of F sharp is E. Well, E sharp sounds the same as F. So why can't we just call this note F? The reason is that we are in the key of F sharp. We can't have F and F sharp in the same key. So the key signature dictates that F must be played as F sharp, not F natural. Now there's a golden rule when working with major scales that you must always have one of each letter name in the major scale. So the note we want to sound like F, we're going to use the letter E for. So we'll play F, or the note that sounds like F, as E sharp in this particular key. Likewise, in our final key for this lesson, the next one in the circle of fifths, we got the key of C sharp. Now in this case we have to sharpen both E and B. B sharp of course sounds like C, but again C has to be played as C sharp because we're in the key of C sharp. So the note B sharp is used to sound like C. This is often a point of confusion, but if you work with this as we go along, I think you'll find it will come out in the wash. So now we have 7 sharps. That's the most sharps you're ever likely to find in a key that you're going to play music in. So to work out any sharp key, you really only need to remember 2 things, you'll be pleased to know. The 2 things you have to remember are